Alright guys, I'm here to show you how I have automated the production of empowered canola oil. This is my 15 by 15 canola farm. I have 25 worms, 4 cyclic sprinklers. They have a 4-block radius, so it's covering to the edges, and a single row of overlap in the middle. This would grow a lot faster up above ground with direct access to sky, but I just kind of slid it into the side of the mountain here. Now, the reason I created the canola power in the first point was to power our void ore miners. We started with the tier 1, we're now up to tier 5. Now, all of the canola gets harvested by the cyclic harvester and goes down into this dropper. The canola goes into the canola press. The seeds go into the dropper first, and then into these bioreactors, and then the excess seeds go into the trash can. I don't think we've actually voided any canola seeds in a long time now that I've upped the power consumption. We'll get to that in just a second. So the seeds come to this dropper, and from there I have this circuit that sets everything in motion. The circuit starts with this block of redstone getting pushed over, allowing this timer to go. I could have built a vanilla redstone timer to match all of my other vanilla redstone logic, but vanilla redstone timers are kind of large and annoying, and I'd much rather have this. So this sends pulses over to the dropper to count 6 seeds into this chest, because it's 6 seeds for every cycle of canola. And again, I'll get to that in just a second. The way this counts is a set of repeaters with a 1 tick and 4 tick delay that attempts to push through first and then flips the piston. So it counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 happens on the reset. On that reset tick, it also sends a pulse down to the atomic reconstructor. The first 4 seeds that come out get sent into the display stands for the empowerer. The last 2 seeds get sent to this open crate to be crystallized by the atomic reconstructor. This floating Hopperhawk Petite has a limited range and a item frame with a crystallized canola seed in it, so that it will only pick up crystallized canola seeds basically just right in this area. From this chest, 1 goes over to the empowerer. You just saw the empower animation display. And the second crystallized seed comes and gets dropped in here. The empowered seed then gets dropped over here. Now, the canola is being pressed in the canola press. Canola oil comes to fermenting barrels to be turned into refined canola oil. That refined canola oil comes to this fluid placer, which we saw is placing the buckets here. The crystallized seed gets dropped in, it turns into crystallized oil, and is picked up by this fluid collector. That fluid collector pumps into this fluid placer, placing the crystallized oil here. The empowered seed is dropped in, turning it into empowered oil, which is collected in this fluid collector, and then transferred on into the power production system. Now, it's very important that you have some way to leave a small amount of empowered oil in the fluid collector. If it takes all of the oil out, then as soon as this placed the crystallized oil, this would pick up the crystallized oil, and then we'd have a problem. Speaking of problems, I'm about to starve. Alright, we good. This comparator is set up with a little bit of redstone logic to the servo, so that when this gets empty enough, it stops pumping out. This also sends a pulse back to here to restart the system every time it finishes, all the way through the end and creates the bucket of empowered oil. Now, initially I had the oil coming into this wood tank, and then this comparator and a little bit of logic, making sure that when the tank got too full, it would stop sending the messages through to keep restarting the cycle. However, I upped the fuel consumption, and this now basically is just pass-through. I could replace it with a pipe and nothing would change. Early on, I just had a few compression dynamos. They weren't resonant. They only had a couple fuel catalyzer augments. At this point, with 5 resonant compression dynamos, each with a boiler conversion and 3 fuel catalyzers, I'm able to burn the fuel without any kind of problem. These compression dynamos generally take fuel and coolant, and they produce RF. However, with the boiler conversion, it produces steam instead of RF, and requires water, I'm fairly certain. You might be able to use other coolants, but I'm 99% sure you got to use water. The downside to this is that while it produces steam, it doesn't stop producing steam if it can't pump out the steam into anything. It just keeps burning the fuel without producing, any more steam, because it's all full. So I have this buffer tank here that the steam dynamos are being fed out of, and the compression dynamos are feeding into. Because this isn't like a constant trickle of fuel, it comes in batches, then it doesn't burn very consistently, and there needs to be a buffer. You can see the steam's going down, that tank just emptied out a little bit, but then the fuel came in, these started up, and it filled right back up. Currently, these steam dynamos have the turbine conversion to be able to use steam directly instead of having to get power and water to make steam. And one of them has a auxiliary transmission coil to output just a little bit more power. But 480 from this one, up to 600 from this one, up to 480 from this one, plus the power that I get from my biofuel generators, that the bioreactors are recycling the extra seeds. This is all way more power than I need. The tier 6 will use a little bit more power, and I might have to put another couple coils into these dynamos, but currently we're producing way more power than needed. To run the impower, to run the bioreactors, to run the canola press, to run the void ore miner. When I finally get tier 6, and then maybe change out some of these null modifiers for some actual modifiers, I might, actually hit the limit of how much power I'm producing. But for the foreseeable future, this is producing way more power than I need for my tier 5 void ore miner. This has been my canola craziness. Thank you for watching.